Wednesday, June the 23rd, the air still smelled fresh from a big downpour of rain earlier that day, and cameraman Shah was still home. Usually, he would already have been out and about, filming at different locations. That day, however, he was home with all his equipment stacked up in the corner. His phone kept beeping as it was inundated with news and messages about his employer, the outspoken Apple Daily newspaper, ceasing operations at midnight that night. Shah's heart sank. He had thought he would have a few more days working as a proud employee for the legendary paper, at least until that Saturday. But like other people in Hong Kong, he had found out that the company's fate was sealed. On this day, at the age of 28, Shah lost his job of 7 years and was now a man without a purpose. What happened to Apple Daily? What does Beijing want to achieve by forcing this newspaper out of business? One thing you should know is this: Beijing is after neither the paper nor Hong Kong. I'm Sharon, and this is Straight Talk. The pro-democracy daily newspaper Apple Daily celebrated its 26th birthday recently. Given the deteriorating political environment, many wondered if it would live to see its 30th birthday. But its closure came much sooner than expected. To be fair, there had been plenty of bad signs earlier this year, and things took a serious turn for the worse in the weeks leading up to its closure. A total of 7 individuals connected to Apple Daily have been arrested in the name of national security since last July, including the newspaper's founder, Jimmy Lai. His personal assets were frozen by the authorities, and he will stand trial on national security charges in Hong Kong's highest court, the High Court, where he could face life in prison. In late June, more than 500 police raided the daily paper's newsrooms and arrested 5 top executives. $2.5 million worth of assets were subsequently frozen by the authorities. Unable to pay staff, many at the newsrooms resigned. The paper faced imminent closure. The last straw came when Apple Daily editorial writer was arrested. The company made the decision to close down its operations that same day. Shortly after the clock struck midnight on June the 23rd, the entire Apple Daily and all affiliated websites were taken offline. I had subscribed to Apple Daily digital news for years, and it was very sad for me to see this. Its Facebook and YouTube accounts were also closed down. There is not a single bit of Apple Daily content to be found online now. 1 million copies of the paper were printed on the eve of its closure, and Hong Kong residents began queuing at midnight to buy them. Here is a picture of around 1,000 people waiting at a newsstand in Kowloon to buy the very last edition. By the evening of the 24th, all 1 million copies had sold out. Trading in the company's shares was suspended, and it will most likely be delisted. Beijing is able to pull this off thanks to the national security law it imposed on Hong Kong in June of last year. Barely 1 year after the law's enforcement, freedom of the press in Hong Kong has been damaged beyond recognition. Apple Daily was accused of using journalism as a tool to endanger national security. 3 people from Apple Daily, including the founder, have been charged under the national security law for allegedly conspiring to collude with foreign powers. The news outlet is accused of publishing more than 30 articles that called for sanctions on the Beijing and Hong Kong governments. But the government declined to give details on the offending articles. What the government also didn't answer were questions from reporters on how they could avoid arrest in carrying out their work. That is because Apple Daily wasn't the only target. In recent months, the public broadcaster Radio Television Hong Kong, or RTHK, has been hit by a series of crackdowns. The government cut its funding and replaced its management several months ago. Right around the same time, RTHK suspended BBC World News over its Xinjiang reporting and later dropped outspoken current affairs programs. Then in April, RTHK signed up Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam to host her own daily show, explaining Beijing's actions toward the city's electoral system. Another independent media outlet, The Epoch Times saw its printing presses smashed by a gang of men using sledgehammers. Several weeks later, an Epoch Times senior reporter and a YouTube influencer with over 100,000 followers was attacked near her home by a man wielding a baseball bat. Hong Kong authorities have remained silent on the attack. What does Beijing want? As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the media isn't Beijing's ultimate target. Media organizations were just in the way of what it is trying to accomplish. Beijing wants to consolidate its authoritarian hold on the international financial hub that is Hong Kong, and says only patriots should be allowed to govern Hong Kong. By patriots, it means those who have pledged their loyalty to China's communist regime. A Hong Kong official, Eric San, explained what the term patriotic meant. You cannot say that you are patriotic, but you do not love the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, or you do not respect it. This does not make sense, he said. Patriotism is holistic love. Aha, so Beijing really just wants love and some TLC? Who are we kidding? What it desires is obedience and total submission. Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam has cooperated fully. A law was passed requiring all civil servants and politicians to take a patriotic oath. The new law allows the Secretary for Justice to take action against a politician or official who is deemed to have violated their oath under an active list that prescribes a broad range of unpatriotic acts, from insulting the flag to endangering national security. The principle of patriots governing Hong Kong that was once only applicable to public officials has been extended to the judiciary, to the education sector, and the media. This means politics will dominate the lives of Hong Kongers for years to come. Beijing has long known how powerful the media can be, and freedom of the press had to go. The CCP has successfully achieved and maintained control in China via two avenues, namely through propaganda and violence, or as they call it, the two barrels, the barrel of the pen and the barrel of the gun. Public perception of the independence and credibility of Hong Kong's news media has now dropped to a record low. But what does Beijing really want? In bringing Hong Kong to its knees, Beijing is looking to the West. When the British government returned Hong Kong to Beijing, both parties signed the Sino-British Joint Declaration, which promised that the socialist system and policies shall not be practiced in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, and the previous capitalist system and way of life shall remain unchanged for 50 years. This is enshrined in Hong Kong's mini-constitution, referred to as a Basic Law. This is a deal that China signed with Great Britain and by implication with the West. Beijing decided to unilaterally end it. The UK has responded by offering a pathway to citizenship to Hong Kong residents born before the handover. The US has stripped Hong Kong of special trade privileges. Western democracies have also sanctioned Beijing and Hong Kong officials for their roles in crushing democracy. But Beijing continued to challenge Hong Kong's values and its rule of law before the eyes of the world. This is Beijing's announcement that China is walking into the world unopposed and unafraid. Alan Casaflis, a former editor of the Financial Times, shared his insights. The CCP's eternal interests have hardly changed since it seized power in 1949. Top of the list is to ensure the predominance of the Chinese Communist Party by any means necessary. Everything else is small change. Casaflis said that what will rattle the Chinese is anything that threatens the communist state's economic growth, because that is the linchpin that holds everything together. The implicit deal the Communist Party has made with the Chinese people is this: we give you jobs, you give us everything else. Leave everything else to us. Many political and business leaders in the West still believe in engaging China in business by drawing red lines on national security and human rights. But this is not how the CCP plays. By doing business with Beijing, they may just be extending its life. Casaflis may be right that the only practical avenue open to the West is to wean itself off cheap Chinese goods. The West must rethink its economic priorities. This is it for today. I hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, please do like it, comment on it, or share it with your friends. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.